Ingi ngari Francis, ngani dawa ngari, dalman girinya, ngari riwi guni yandia. Yiniji panda guni yandia, ngani wangri.
Welcome to Laarri Gallery.
Welcome to Laarri Gallery.
Welcome to Laarri Gallery.
We are a small, not-for-profit gallery.
Gallery started in 1999.
And it's a partnership between Ely and our school.
Our artwork is bright and colorful.
Our artwork has a modern style, featuring dreaming stories
and traditional design. Make artifacts such as didgeridoo and bob nuts.
We have artworks by Ely kids for sale.
In 2007, this building opened. This is where artists work.
You can learn about local history here and what our painting means to us.
If you come on the right day, we might make you a cup of tea or a coffee in our cafe.
When someone buys our art, they're supporting our local people.
Well, I'll introduce my name, Norman Cox. I'm a Gwinnett man, eldest in the Ely community. We started from station. Because we were 6 kids, we moved down to Ely here. Chairman Steve Oakman come along and tell me we're going to make community down there in Margaret River. We wasn't on the land, but staying on the land. Because we weren't just living there, you know, just living in the country. And I would apply for the miners' right to live down there. The miners' right, they probably have it in every place, you know, in the gold field and all places like that. And sometimes you have go through the mining mob and you lease a little bit of country, and then you go from further on from there. That's how we started. All the money from the social, what we had, we put in and build a community. And the money we put it in the bank all the time, in the bank. And that's what the Ely started. We never get any funding for 5 years from the government. Government will prove us that we can live here, and that's what the Ely is now today.
Well, hello everyone. My name's John Hill. The reason I'm out here talking to you is that I actually have a long history with this community, and I'd like to give you a bit of background before you go and see our beautiful gallery. So the genesis of Ely community, like many other remote communities, really comes out of decisions that were made in the 1960s about Aboriginal people who worked on pastoral leases. And there were some decisions made about wages and what sort of work people could do and how much they should be paid for what I would argue were very good human rights reasons. However, there were definitely unexpected consequences to this, where lots of people were actually ejected from pastoral leases, which also happened to be on their traditional country that they'd lived and worked at for a very long time and had developed relationships with the white pastoral lessees. And what the end result of some of this displacement was towns like Fitzroy Crossing that you may have just come through was actually in the late 1970s. Fitzroy Crossing had several thousand people, most of whom were living completely as fringe dwellers, because they had been kicked off their traditional land where they had previously worked on. Obviously they had traditional country there, and then since white people came in, they had worked on pastoral leases, on cattle stations. So I think back in those days it was really obvious that towns like Fitzroy Crossing were just really not good places for people to be. So with some enlightened government policy, there was various programs were established, such as the Aboriginal Community Development Program, which allowed people to return to some of their traditional land and establish communities. The way that it was done land tenure-wise was generally what they call an excision, where they excised, cut out a small parcel of land from a pastoral lease. In this case, obviously the pastoral lease is Louisa Downs, and Norman Cox, who was a Gooniyandi man whose country Louisa Downs is, he'd worked all his life as a cattle station person, and he had finished up in towns like Fitzroy Crossing and Halls Creek, and he wanted to get back to have a better life on his traditional country for himself and his family. So in 1980, he came and camped by the Margaret River here, at the back of where the school is now, which we call the Ely River, because it's the Ely reach of the Margaret River. That's where the name of the community comes from. And Norman went and camped there, and he had some of his immediate family to camp with initially, and then he sought some assistance from organisations and people that he knew who might be able to help him establish the community. And one of the first things that came up was, okay Norman, if you want this to be a real community, not just a holiday camp, what are you going to do about the kids? The government of this country says kids have to go to school every day, and unless you do something about that, well, they won't leave you alone. So Norman was a very can-do sort of person, and like many of his generation. So Norman said, all right, we'll start our own school. So there was a young woman who'd been travelling out to some of the cattle stations where people had been to run mobile kindy, and she was based in Fitzroy Crossing, and she said, well, okay, if you're really fair income and you want to start a school, I'll be your first qualified teacher, because that was one of the #1 prerequisites. You didn't have to have a lot of infrastructure, resources in those days, but you had to have a qualified teacher, and you had to demonstrate that the kids were doing an education program. And it's a great credit to Norman and the Ely people. One of his younger sisters is currently our chairperson of the school. Norman and his siblings and their children, grandchildren, and in fact great-grandchildren now, and other people who've married into the Ely family, they still to this day constitute the community of Ely Aboriginal Community School. Norman thought, well, we need an art gallery. So with the assistance of a principal who was here at Ely School in the 1990s, they started a fledgling art gallery through some dint of some submission writing and cobbling together money from various and sundry organisations, some philanthropic money, some from the local Aboriginal Resource Agency, some from the Australian Department of the Arts. Like together, they managed to get the funding to build the actual gallery that you guys can go and see all our beautiful artwork in. His vision was also to interact well with the wider world and to show things. People had a great love of art and still do so. People love to paint, they love to paint the country, they love to paint bush tucker. There's an economic imperative. I mean, people like to receive some income, of course. It's a very brief history of Ely Community and Ely Aboriginal Community School, and it's something that the community is very proud of, and I think rightly so. And people are really happy to have groups like yourselves come in and look at our school and appreciate what has been achieved by the Ely people. And I often think that these sort of stories should be more widely known in mainstream Australia.
That's why all the people are happy about the school here now we got. The people like to come back and bring their kids back to the community school, and we do good. We have to get 2 buildings first, that one and that one there. We have to wait 5 years to get a funding from the ADC at the time. We have to make up our own money. We have to bank our own money and buy food ourselves. We start off that way. And we have to camp down the river there, the Margaret River. That's where the ED started. From we had 6 kids in the school, the kindy kid, then we got big mob kids. And the school is doing good.
You make man a bit proud, you know, you're running your own thing like that, it makes you a bit proud. Show another black fella you can show them, you know. Show them what we're doing here. Well, you might go to every community and doing that sort of thing, same thing.
Thank you for visiting our gallery.
We hope you find something special to take home.
We hope you enjoy your visit. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram.
Bye.
Thanks for coming.
Hello.
Hello.
See you next time. Bye.